All right, guys, welcome back to the Agent Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Caffarella. I've got a special guest today, Erik Hatch. Erik, what's going on?
Oh my gosh, good to be here. It's a beautiful day in the Fargo neighborhood I find myself in.
What is the Fargo neighborhood? Where are you out of?
Fargo, North Dakota. Somebody has to be, so I chose to be the guy. Spring is upon us as we record this, and so it's like a balmy 43 degrees outside. Everybody's in Speedos walking around just enjoying this wonderful weather because usually it's 30 below. So now that it's in the 40s, everybody puts on their summer gear.
Yeah, when we have people, come on from all over the country and you get the places that are kind of consistent. And yeah, North Dakota, I don't know that I've ever talked to anybody in North Dakota, literally.
There's about 750,000 of us. There's not a ton. And the metro I live in is about 250,000 of it. So
Wow.
you go outside of Fargo and it's farmland for hours.
Yeah, good deal. Obviously we talked before we got on the show a little bit about your bio, what you've done and all that good stuff. Kind of like, run back the time. How did you get starting in real estate? Like, and where are you and then fast forward us to where you're at today.
Sure. So I grew up in Fargo, born and raised. Every time I've tried to leave here, God has smacked me back into reality and said, I'm not done with you yet. And so I graduated from college in 2002. I went into the ministry. I was doing youth ministry and worship leading and preaching and teaching and all that. And I had such a fire and a passion to try to help people, but I was flat broke. Tom, I had no money whatsoever. Working for a nonprofit and working for a church is a fancy way to say you got to get a second job. And so in 2006, a buddy of mine who sold houses, he's like, Hatch, you're good with people. You should sell houses. And I'm like, okay, sure. Seems like an easy way to make money. And my first year, I don't mean to brag, but I sold 0 houses, and I realized, this is a lot harder than it looks. But I worked on developing my chops and trained hard. And so my first year, my second year, I sold 10 houses, and it's crescendoed every year since then. So I did that. I was a part-time realtor from 2006 to 2010. So I spent 5 years doing that. And then I went full-time in 2011. My part-time job became so lucrative, and my family and we were going through some infertility issues and trying to be parents, that I needed to fund my life and fund my fatherhood. And we had run out of insurance. So the only way that we could do it was if I literally brought home so much more money. Yep. And real estate was that vehicle for it. So 2011, I went into real estate full time, sold 52 houses my first year, all from my sphere of influence. It helps that I'm in a small town, and it helps that I had unintentionally built a really big reputation and following for years and years in my ministry job. I had no idea that I would ever be an entrepreneur, that I would jump into other things, but it was opportunistic to say the least.
Yeah. And that's one of those things, like anybody that gets into sales, it's like, it's tough because like somebody like you comes in and you had what you just, told me, you had a huge sphere to start, and you already had those relationships to start. So it's tough because some people come in with none of that or very little of that. And it's like, they've got a totally kind of different journey. And it's funny because a lot of times when I talk to super successful people out of the first year, everyone looks at them and they're like, oh man, like they're so much better than me or this or that. And then I always boil it down to like, well, what's the reason they had a really good first year? There's never not a reason. Now, of course, like work ethic and that stuff, no doubt that plays a variable, but that's still, an incredible thing. I mean, obviously going from selling 0 in your first year to 50 full-time, in the first full-time year is awesome.
Yeah, it was all on the other side of something I call mindshare. I think that oftentimes we try to pursue market share and we look for that low-hanging fruit piece, but mindshare is all about planting the seeds and staying front of mind for people for who we are before what we do, right? It matters more about who we are than what we do. And that has to be everything that I put out there into the universe. Is I want people to say, Erik's a really good guy who happens to sell houses or happens to invest in houses. And I think so many people get that wrong, Tom. They're putting, hey, I sell houses, and by the way, my name's Erik. And it's the wrong approach as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of, go off of what you just said, I see so many people focusing on like, what's my logo? What's my brand name? And it's like, your brand is you. Like, you're the person. It doesn't matter what color your logo is. It doesn't matter anything. Like it has to be you. And then the second part to that is, like you said, it's mind share. Like if people aren't thinking about you, period, then they're definitely not thinking about you being an agent. So
Yeah.
there's no way, around it. I mean, when you talk about that, and I know you do some coaching and stuff like that, like what would you say, and we're going to get into the investing part, but like, what's the easiest way to stay mind share for you in 2021?
Believe it or not, it's social media.
I believe it.
We're restricted with the interactions we can have face to face, although we're getting more back, or we're getting closer to what felt like normal each day here. I think social media is everybody's best CRM, and they don't treat it that way.
Yep.
And so my Facebook page, I have 5,000 air quote friends on Facebook.
Yep.
But turns out I have information about their family. I have information about their hobbies. I have information about where they work. I have information about the city that they live in. I have information about when their birthday is.
Yep.
And to treat your Facebook like a CRM, you don't need to be the most clever person on earth. You don't need to be the person that has these outrageous posts. Although I am intentional and I post 1 to 4 times a day religiously because I'm so intentional about putting stuff out there. For most people, that is so fear-inducing. And so the idea is you find those people and you treat it as a CRM. You label them, you categorize them. You can you can create a friend list on Facebook, and you can label with 1,000 different things, just like you would in a CRM. And then you can track those people, you can systemize it, and you can stay in touch with them constantly. Because the idea is you are going to be a contributor, a giver, and a conversation starter more than you are just a taker. Making people feel good. And so if you want to capture mind share on an exceedingly high level, and if you want to be front of mind for people, show up as a giver and use your social media as a CRM.
So with all that being said, right, like, real estate is not putting a man on the moon. We're not building, crazy advanced things. Go to Erik's Facebook page and see what he's doing. So one of the best things that I think anyone can do, you see somebody successful, look at what they're doing. So he just told you, hey, I post 1 to 4 times a day. I've got all this different content. You don't have to obviously copy the exact postings, but
you can if you're in a different market. Nobody's going to be the wiser.
True.
I rip up all my stuff, Tom.
True. That's a very good point. But take a look at what he's doing and how he's doing it. And not everyone is gonna, want to have the exact same, personality as Erik. But look at like the patterns of stuff I think that he's getting on there. So besides just the posting, now you said the friends list. So what does that look like?
So let's say, Tom, you and I went to college together, and we were in the same fraternity. And I know now that you're living in Fargo and you love baseball. Okay. 4 things about you. I can go into these friend lists and I can create tags or labels that group all these people together. So I can put you as a college friend. I can put you as a fraternity brother. I can put you as somebody who lives in my town. I can put you as somebody who loves baseball. And so sure enough, when it's your birthday, I'm going to go on all those tabs. I'm going to be like, man, Tom really loves baseball. And I know he lives in Fargo. I bet I can get his address, show up, and give you a Minnesota Twins hat and wish you happy birthday, right? Most people, when it's your birthday, they maybe will put happy birthday on your wall, period.
Most people won't even do that.
And it's forgotten about. Of my 5,000 air quote Facebook friends, I get 500 Facebook posts. My birthday was earlier this week. And so I watched this. I had 50 text messages. I can't tell you who was one of them. I had 500 people post on my wall. I can't tell you who was one of them, but I got a lot of phone calls and I got a lot of handwritten letters, and I remember that.
Yep.
If somebody brought me a gift, I sure as heck am going to remember that.
Yep.
And so the idea is that if you want to be remarkable, break down the word remarkable. Being remarkable is so fantastic that people will remark about you, which is word of mouth advertising, which is exactly what I want. Yep. If I want to be remarkable, I have to do something that's exceptional and memorable. And your Facebook friends list and the labels and the tags that you put on the world's greatest CRM is opportunistic for you.
Yep. And so like one of the things that I love about it, and that, we teach and train on, at our company, and it's something that, you kind of hear, you know, a lot of brokers just talk about like, okay, you've got to call down your list or whatever and kind of start the conversation. And I agree with that. But what you just said, hey, send in that Minnesota Twins hat for all the effort you're going to put in trying to have a call, like almost like a fake call for somebody that doesn't really want to take your call for $10, you can niche down what you're doing with them so much that that's going to be worth 10 times more than that like random phone call to basically be like, hey, like I'm here, like do you want to give me some business?
Yeah, I mean, it is far better to attract business than it is to ask for business. And I want to live a life that's so attractive that business finds me instead of me hunting it down. It's how, so if we fast forward, Tom,
Yep.
this year we're going to sell 13 or 1400 homes as my team, right? Like we did 866 last year and we are on a rocket ship of success here. It's the 5th of March as we record this, and we have penned and closed almost 350 homes for the year so far.
Yep.
And the way that happens, half of our business we buy, but the other half of the business we earn. Because I now will have, next month, I'll close on our 5,000th transaction since we started our team in 2012.
That's awesome.
And that database right there is the most important database that I have. If I'm buying leads, those are fine, well, and good. But my database are people who know, like, and trust me.
Yep.
And so I want to separate the purchased database versus the earned database. And earned business tastes so much better than purchased business.
Yep.
And word of mouth advertising is the greatest, cheapest form of advertising. And if I want to have a really big life, I can't buy my way to the top. I got to earn it.
No, 100%. And the way I look at it too, like I look at it, how far down the funnel is somebody? And when you're talking about like buying a lead and, you know, buying business, like you're talking about, and I'm assuming you're referring to like a realtor or a Zillow or stuff like that, right? They're all the way at the top of the funnel, right? Like they don't know, like, and trust you. You got to fight tooth and nail to get that business. And a lot of times you still don't even get it when you're fighting tooth and nail versus like the people that are already down at the bottom who are like, yeah, I just have to remember that you're an agent in order to still work with you. And a lot of times I think people go the opposite direction of the funnel. They're like, hey, how can I get a new Zillow lead? They think that's going to be easier when it's actually so much harder because you have to like work to push them all the way down. So with all that being said, so you've had, you know, massive success, you know, with your team and all that good stuff. At what point in all of your career did you say, hey, you know, maybe it makes sense to do a little bit of investing, and what are you doing on the investing side?
Yeah, Tom, I grew up with one foot in the welfare bucket. I was trailer trash and came from a single parent home. And then when I was 21, my mom died too. So I was orphaned at 21, and I had no direct people in my life that were investors or entrepreneurs or even really big thinkers. I'm the first person of the Hatch lineage to go to college, right?
Yep.
And so I didn't ever have that exposure. But when I was starting in real estate, my first year, again, I sold 52 houses. I was in conversations. One of my buddies was a house flipper, and he was buying a couple houses a year. An old high school friend of mine, and we started talking about buying rental properties. And we're like, hey, we should look to get some rental properties. And I was scared to death of putting that money out there. It just seemed like it was the biggest, riskiest, craziest place for me to put $10,000.
Yeah.
My friend Brent, my friend Nick, and myself, Eric, we gathered together and we each put in $10,000 and bought a foreclosed house for $92,000. We had to put in a couple $1,000 into repairs, and then we're like, oh man, we're gonna rent it. And then we took on property management ourselves too, which is a whole nother nightmare. But this was all 2012. I had, for the first time in my life, I had some liquidity. And I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't have anybody teaching me. I didn't have anybody showing me, but I had a friend who was good enough to nudge me and be like, hey, I know you're making money now. You should be responsible with it because you don't have retirement. My wife's a teacher, right? Like we had no big cash in our lives whatsoever. And we bought that one rental property. And all of a sudden we bought it for, like I said, the mid 90s. And we were renting it out for $1,200 right away. And we're like, oh, we're making some cash here. Like, this is great. It's slow and steady, but we said, we're going to put everything on a 15-year mortgage and we're going to keep compounding. We're not going to take any money out. We're going to just leave it in. That one rental group now has 22 single family homes. Fast forward now 9 years, I've been investing into homes. I own about 60 doors, some large commercial, some I have a 10-plex, a 6-plex, and then a couple of duplexes and triplexes, and then the rest are all single-family homes. I started flipping houses about 2.5 years ago. I started wholesaling houses last year. I can't get enough of it now, Tom. This is the best addictive drug I've ever been on, and I was never on drugs, so go figure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I got in, as an agent myself. I'm still, a brokerage owner, still do a lot of, stuff related to sales, but I think the investing side is far more exciting. And then I love what you did. So like anytime I have anybody on and I talk about investing, somebody is always doing something that's a little bit different. And I love that you're putting these on 15 years.
Yeah.
Because
every one of them.
Every one of them. So you're basically, my age. You're somewhere in my age range. You told me you graduated.
You have way better hair than I do, Tom. How old are you?
I do. I'm 38. So you got to be 40, right? Because
I just turned 41. Yeah.
Yeah, because you said you graduated 2002, and I was 04 for college. And but either way, like I love the 15-year thing because I mean, there's so many different ways that you can kind of do all this stuff, but what's the end goal, right? It's to get passive income. And you can there's an argument to be had about like how much do you leverage, but at the end of the day, you started buying these properties, 15 years is going to come really, really quick. Mm-hmm. And then when those 15 years are up, now you're in great shape, right?
Yeah. I break the math down like this. We now have 2 kids. I mentioned that we had some infertility issues and other. My daughter's 6, my son's 4. So I did the math and I said, this house, if I do it right, a house should appreciate in value every 20 to 25 years, or excuse me, it should double in value every 20 to 25 years. We see compounding interest, of course, but about 4% is what a home should appreciate.
Yep.
So if I bought a house at $100,000 in 20 years, it should be worth $200,000, just using simple math. And my daughter is going to graduate from high school in 12 years, so in 2033. Mm-hmm. All of the properties I've purchased, I haven't purchased any rental properties in 2 years unless I paid cash for them.
Yep.
All the properties I purchased prior to that, those will be debt free.
Yep.
They will be close to doubled in value. Yep. I'll be collecting $1,500 to $3,000 a month in rent on each of those. And my daughter can go to any school she wants on a fully paid tuition. Now, I'm going to make her work. Like she's going to have to like grind her way. I don't even know if college will be a thing in 13 years. Yep. Nonetheless, I saw it as my long-term play very early on, because again, my background was in ministry. You don't get a great retirement account in ministry. My wife is a teacher and you get a great retirement account with that, but you put in like 6% of your mediocre salary. And my mom died and she was smart enough to invest in some things. When I was 21, my mom died and she was smart enough to invest in some life insurance policies, albeit small. It gave me a chance to pay off my car, pay off my college debt, and I have about $10,000 to figure out life. Yep. And that was the most amazing gift I was given, because I could have been bankrupt right there. Could have just been taken over. And I want to set not only my kids up for future success, but I want to set my community up for future success. And I want to set those, like I now, and people who are of higher net worth, people who have spent some time, it's not having a will, it's having a revocable living trust, and taking those steps to make sure if you're somebody who has a net worth of probably $2.5 million or more, you need to be starting to put your stuff into a revocable living trust so that all of this stuff is figured out when you die, when you perish, and you're not leaving problems for other people. So you can leave problems so easily if you don't do all the work while you're alive. If you don't buy the rental properties, if you don't invest now, if you don't set up the right wills and revocable living trusts, you're leaving somebody else a headache. And I don't wish that on anybody.
So one of the things that kind of came through so clear with what you just said that I think is so important is when you started, you had a vision. And that vision was to have all that stuff paid off by a certain date, to have so much passive income. And that was where I'm assuming that's where you started, right? I mean, did you get that vision before you started, or did that happen along the way?
I knew I wanted to be a dad, and I knew I wanted to start creating passive income. I didn't have the vision of what I do now. Things have gotten more clear as I've gotten more into it. And frankly, the momentum is just starting, because you can now start using cash that's already been invested, and you can recycle that into more. And in total, I've probably put in, outside of my commercial investments, I've probably put in, I don't know, $300,000 or $400,000 into investments that I have mortgages on. And those are worth, the equity I have in those is probably 10x that. Because I bought early. I had this opportunity with real estate to have first dibs on some properties. I made sure I wasn't competing with the strategies of my clients, but I instead would sometimes go to a listing and they'd say, yeah, I want to sell my property. And I'd look at it and I'm like, this could be a great rental. And I said, how about I buy it from you and we just waive all the fees and you can pick your closing dates. And so that's where I picked them up. And it was an unbelievable opportunity. And now the vision has changed and morphed, Tom. But to your aforementioned question, I had a vision early on that I needed to get passive income. And then it transformed into, oh my gosh, I'm creating a life for myself and my family that I never imagined. And now I'm starting to play a different game. And that's where I'm putting my energy now. And that's in flips and wholesales, because my return on that, I set my nest egg first. That's the most important thing to do, I think, for investors, is to find your thing that you can set it and forget it, right? Do you remember those old Ron Popeil food dehydrator commercials? These were infomercials that were on when I was growing up. And he had this phrase on it that he would say, you just have to set it and forget it. Yep. And that's what I did with my first money. That's rental properties. I set it and forget it. Now I'm chasing after bigger returns in a shorter period of time with much higher risk, when that's flipping houses.
Right. Yeah. And I think, like, moving up the ladder, like you're always pushing towards like higher dollar per hour activities. Yep. And that's at the end of the day. And I think that, to speak on the vision thing a little bit, like, I think, a lot of people start out the same thing as you, where you have like a weak vision. Like, you're kind of like, okay, I think I kind of know what I want. And then it gets clearer and clearer kind of over time. And I'm sure you're not done. I'm not done with my vision. I'm still trying to, figure it all out. But you knew at the end of the day, like, you wanted to invest, you wanted to get passive income, and you wanted to do it for your family. And those are big driving forces. Sometimes you don't know exactly what the strategy is, but you'll figure it out if that vision is strong enough and you're going to, push towards it. So where you're at now, obviously, you guys are doing a ton of sales on your team, and you kept it a team, not a brokerage, which we talked about a little bit before. Where are you looking to go for the sales part and then the investing part, over the next 5 years, like as of today?
Compounding questions. And I'm more concerned about who I'm becoming rather than what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm watching intently my character development and my leadership capacity with other people. Real estate is but a vehicle for me in which to live the life that I'm called to live. And my desire is to be a chapter in as many books as possible. The how of it is secondary for me. So know that at the primary focus of what I'm doing, I want to help develop people and create wealth in their worlds, but wealth without time and wealth without the right people is an unfulfilling bite. Mm-hmm. And so I layer all those things together as we go. For my teamerage, for my brokerage, as I said, we're on pace right now to do 1,300 to 1,400 transactions this year. And my belief is that we can get to about 1,800 transactions in Fargo. Yep. That'll give us around a 16 to 18% market share. And that's the largest I've seen anybody do. So right now,
that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, right now we're about an 8 or 9% market share and on our way up. Yeah. So I'm limited there. Remember, I live in North Dakota, and although I'm drawn to expanding, and I have 4 expansion teams, they all make sense because my marketing overlaps there and because we have the right people. So I'll add some additional markets, although I'm not going to add 10 agents in a place. I'm going to find one key person. Remember, I'm developing them as a leader and a person of character and giving them an opportunity to do what I've done. Yeah. And so we create these little leadership boot camps that give people a chance to grow big markets eventually, and to do what I've done in Fargo for them to do in their markets where they're familiar. Because I don't have any clout in those markets, and I don't need it. I just want to help them achieve their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I own a coaching company. It's Hatch Coaching. I put my name on everything, Tom. So it's Hatch Realty or Hatch Coaching, or my kids are named Hatch and Hatch. It's really beautiful. And as I've done this, our coaching company now, we spend a lot of energy trying to influence leaders and influence the real estate world. And so our purpose and mission is to redefine how people treat people. On one end of the spectrum, my partner, Robbie T, is the best lead conversion and ISA coach in the country. And he's built, we're coaching people. We do lots of masterminds and networking events, but he has now built some bolt-on technologies in Follow Up Boss and Sierra Interactive and Wailopo. And it'll certainly grow from there, that are giving people amazing lead conversion hacks. He's modifying conversations. He's having more empathetic connection points. And that's where he's spending his time, because his skill set is different than mine. I'm coaching and leading some of the top realtors and teams in the country. And that is where I'm putting all my energy, is to try to give them the best chance at rising the tide for their ecosystem. And of course, more sales is a byproduct of that, but we want people to improve as people of character and leaders. And so my rocket ship right now is actually Hatch Coaching. We've, when COVID hit, everything changed. We pivoted, we shifted, we moved to subscription-based models for most of our stuff. We built literally hundreds of online training videos to help people be better at what they do. And so it's easily accessible and not reliant on my time being front-facing with people. And so we have over 500 users in our ecosystem on a monthly basis right now, and we are just on a rocket ship trajectory.
Nice.
And I say all that, Tom, because the question you had asked as well was what's happening with investing. And with investing, I'm putting a lot of my energy, as I mentioned previous, into flipping homes and wholesaling. It actually serves as a catalyst to my real estate brokerage as well, which is one of the reasons why you opened up a real estate brokerage, was because your investing was doing that. I just got into investing after you did, right? We had different horses that led us to the water, but we're now drinking the same thing. We're using both at the same time. And so now we're going to flip this year probably 40 or 50 houses. I opened up my own handyman service because I'd much rather keep that stuff in-house for quality control and for connection pieces. And so we're offering services for our whole community, for our clients, but then of course I'm flipping my own houses there too. We're going to wholesale hopefully 20 or 30 a year, and we're trying to grow both those in a really large sort of way. So in 5 years, I'm hoping that we're flipping hundreds of homes a year. I'm hoping that we're wholesaling hundreds of homes a year. I'm hoping that we have reached our goals for sales, but more important than anything, I want to continue to develop my character and the character of the people that I get the opportunity to influence.
So talk a little bit about, we talked a little about the synergies between investing and being an agent. And can you speak a little bit to that? Because sometimes I hear people like, well, if I do investing, it's going to hurt my agent business. Like, what would you say to that, and how has that impacted you?
Yeah, it hasn't in a negative sort of way. I think that may be a falsification, is to say that I can't play the same game that my clients are playing. If I'm working with an investor, and if I'm fearful of it, why not buy it with them? I remember the first houses I bought were with my guy that was flipping houses. And that's the first guy I partnered with.
That's the second time I've heard that. I think 2 out of the last 3 guests said that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That guy knew how to flip houses. He knew the margins. I knew how to find the places, because we say that we have real estate companies. We're marketing and servicing companies. Mm-hmm. We just have real estate as the vehicle that we choose to go in, but we're a marketing and servicing company. And so I jumped into investing without hesitation, because I didn't think that I was competing with my clients. I think that if you do have investor clients, it doesn't mean you can't compete against them. You just need to be fully transparent with them that, hey, I'm an investor too. So know that there's going to be some places I might buy. And they're not going to say, well, hell, I'm not going to work with you then. My guess is they're going to say, oh, I'm glad you know what you're doing then.
Yep. Yeah, that's another, I think, key component about knowing investing, is that not too many agents really, really know it super well. And like you just said, it's a value prop more than anything for those investor clients.
Yeah.
So getting back to the limiting belief for a second, you said some of your client, you partnered with some of your clients or one of your clients. What were you bringing to the table, like as an agent?
I had some cash. I brought in 10 grand. And so I had some cash. Certainly, unless you're working with a wholesaler, you need somebody to find the deals. And you need somebody with some savvy for negotiating. You need somebody who has oftentimes access to those resources that are needed in order to consummate a deal.
Yep.
And sure enough, that's what we are as realtors. Is we're those that know how to have the savvy to hopefully find the deal or to get in before anybody else. Because at least in this current market, Tom, if you ain't first, you're last. And you got to get in there right away. And of course, having access to all these properties matters a lot. Having market knowledge of what this is huge. I remember Brent, my buddy who got me into this. He was always like, well, I can tell you exactly how much this is going to cost to flip, but I need to know exactly what is it going to sell for when we put it back on the market.
Yep.
And that was like, okay, I can come in and I can tell you that if this is done and this is done and I can run my CMA and I can do all my work, I was able to, with pretty close to pinpoint accuracy, let him know the strategy that we needed, the work that should get done. I'm now serving as an advisor saying, you don't need granite countertops on this. The laminate's going to be fine because you're only going to get this ROI versus this ROI. I mean, we as realtors have a plethora of value to give in these situations.
And that's where I think, most agents who think about this stuff, they take all this stuff for granted, knowing how the property should be renovated, getting access to the deal maybe before somebody else, being on top of the deal before somebody else, being able to know what the comps are, like all of that stuff. I don't know the people you partnered with, but my guess is that they didn't have any of that, or they had maybe just a little bit of that. Am I right?
They couldn't tell me what they can find the square footage on the city website, but they couldn't tell me what homes are selling for $1 per square foot based on the comps. And they couldn't tell me, do we actually open up this kitchen and what's that going to increase the value with, or all those strategic questions. And I don't know how people do it without an agent.
All that stuff leads to mistakes, right? Like you just mentioned, a simple thing. Do we do granite here or do we do laminate? Okay, well, that's a big money kind of decision. And the average layman, they're either going to just cheap out all the time and go laminate, or they're going to be like, oh, it has to be perfect. And neither of those two is the right answer, right? The right answer is, well, what's the ROI on doing what we're doing? And most people don't know because they're not in it. And somebody like yourself, I mean, with all the houses you're selling, you have a pulse on your market. You know exactly what a buyer is going to be okay with, what they're not going to be okay with. Like, hey, this bedroom size, yeah, it's a little small, but in that neighborhood, it's okay. Or, hey, you need to have big bedrooms in that neighborhood or else you're going to get $20,000 or $30,000 less. Mm-hmm. So it's all that market expertise that you bring to the table as an agent that it's like, it is fair. It's fair, to be partnering on that stuff, and they're going to get as much value. And sometimes agents do all this stuff for free. So you talked about like going on a listing appointment, seeing a deal, and then buying it. There's all these opportunities and all these competitive advantages that agents have to invest. And it's just a matter of kind of utilizing them. We had somebody in my office. It was literally yesterday. Attorney gave them a referral. The attorney said, hey, my client has this property under contract. Buyer's going to back out. House needs a lot of work. Right there, like my agent, and I'm not like trying to brag about this, but my agent, because they know that same opportunity, is going to take advantage of buying that property that the seller wants to sell to an investor. And my agent's ready to buy that home now. And it's a great opportunity. Whereas a lot of agents, they would say, oh, how can I list that house? When that's not even the right solution for this particular client. And because of that, because they don't know how to use the agent, investor tools, they're going to make nothing instead of getting into a great position. So what would you say to what do you say? You've got a team of a ton of people. What do you say to the people on your team that are like, someday I want to invest, but I'm scared, I can't do this? Like, how do you get them to take that leap? What do you say to them?
2 years ago, I started flipping houses with some of my team members who had the desire to get into it, but they were a little bit gun shy. They didn't know what to identify as the right property. They didn't know the trades of getting the work done. And I simply said, you know what? I'm here to help you have your best life possible. And so they had to open up the LLC with me as a 50% owner. I did almost all the work, but we would do weekly meetings to show here's what we're doing and here's why we're doing it. And I taught them how to invest. I have 53 people on my team, and I'd say probably 12 or 13 of them are investing currently, that they're buying properties and flipping them, or they're doing long-term rentals. And so I jumped in 2 years ago and wanted to give them an opportunity to start flipping homes. I started my own triple LP, and we are now, as a conglomerate of people, I have 21 team members that are in it. We're all investing together. When I flip a house, Tom, my numbers are this. I pay a commission on when I buy it to my company. I pay a commission when I sell it, because I want to treat it, my investor dollars are different than my real estate brokerage dollars. And I invited people to join in. I said, a minimum of $1,000 can get you in, and you can purchase as many shares as you want. And so I collected from my team members about $125,000. I put in, I wanted to retain at least a 70% ownership. I currently have an 80% ownership. So I put in about $500,000, and together we have $625,000 that we're using to invest in flipping properties.
Excellent.
And,
that's amazing.
And so they're learning alongside me. I'm using my money, my strategy. If I lose 20 cents on the dollar of opportunity, but I keep great people around, because their greatest chance to invest is with a proven investor who knows what the heck they're doing, that is a 20 cent on the dollar return that's going to pay me droves of what they can do for my real estate team.
Yep.
For my admin, I'm creating retirement opportunities because we're building this passive wealth. I can flip a house on average in 120 days, from the time in which I buy it until the time in which it closes again. And I should make a 15% return on that investment when I do it right. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but I gun for 15% for my return. If I can recycle that, in 120 days means I can do 3 of those deals in a year. If I can get some of these investors a 30 or 40% return on their dollar, I have no idea why somebody would even want to go and do it on their own, because they're going to say, that guy has given me a golden ticket, and my $1,000 just turned into $1,400, and all I did was allow Erik to do it. And no, don't get me wrong, we have to have all that money at work all the time, and it's more complicated than what I'm saying right here, and it's taken a lot of lawyer fees and stuff to figure out how to do this. But I find myself now unbelievably excited at the opportunity we're creating for everyone in our ecosystem.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
So, where are you finding this time again?
You know what? My top 2 books that I read last year. One is called The Pumpkin Plan, and it talks all about giving all your time to your big pumpkins, those in your world that are the most producing. And so I don't spend all my time with like the new people. I spend all my time with my top people. Yep. So even though I have, as of today, I think I have 20 businesses and a lot of people that I have the privilege of leading, I don't spend all my time with all of them. My other book that I read in 2020 that was one of my favorites is a book called Who Not How. And it's all about having key people and empowering them before you just try to figure out the how. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that I'm doing here, Tom, in order to set my life up for success. I work, but I don't know, 50 hours a week. Yeah. With 20 businesses and selling thousands of homes and coaching dozens of people. And like, my life has never been better because I have the right who's, because I invest in people more than I invest in properties.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I got a little quote behind me. Hiring the best is your most important task. So I think, similar to that kind of message, but yeah, awesome. So how can people, if they want to learn more about you, besides like I already quoted going on and stalking you on Facebook, how can people learn more about you or connect with you?
Yeah, if you are searching for me on Facebook, it's Erik with a K, ERIK, HATCH. go to hatchcoaching.com. It's probably the best way to see some of the things that we're doing to influence the world. We put 90% of our stuff out there for free on our YouTube channel and stuff on our website. So come and get some stuff for free. But if you are looking for some really good, consistent ways to grow as a leader, as a salesperson, even as an investor, we do something called Hatch Huddle. It's every Monday at 10 a.m. Central Time. We spend 45 minutes, myself and my partner, Robbie T, really doing kind of an interactive podcast about growth and development and moving that needle forward so you can have your best life. And that's just $99 a month. And we give the first month for free for people. And so come and try it for 30 days on. Check out the Hatch Huddle over at hatchcoaching.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erik, for joining us. And, like I said, I don't know how you're doing it all, but congratulations on all your success.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it.